Previously on Lost.
It's a lovely beach, though. Look, there's a rope leading out to the sea.
Oh, no, this island's full of zombies and movie monsters and witches as well.
Hello, boys. I'm going to save you.
Are you Todd Hobgoblin?
Nice to see you, Todd.
But here is my wife, Soiichi. Konnichiwa, Soiichi.
Two hours earlier, Todd Hobgoblin and Soiichi in Wanwan Hobgoblin are in their makeshift home at the heart of the sweatshop humans who they inhabit.
What?
They have just finished watching their second favourite film, The Shining.
Sumimasen. Woof. Growl.
Their favourite film is In Orbit.
Ah, there we go. Glad these hobgoblin and dog-to-human talking devices are finally working. Hello, I'm Todd Hobgoblin.
And I am Soiichi, Inu Wanwan Hobgoblin. The English filter is working as well.
We are proud owners of the only locally run sweatshop on Kits and Ben... Sweatshop. Sweet shop on Kits and Ben Nevis.
Making nuke shirts and Adidas bum bags and Slazenger cricket boxes.
No, they are
No,
not.
they are not.
Not knockoffs.
Wink.
Wink.
Wink, wink.
Anyway,
Our friends at the MFIMDB are due to join us on this island soon, joining some new stuff. So while we wait for them, we will we'll do our own podcast, and we are the ideal stereotypes to run a Shining Simpsons-based clip show. So that's what we're fixing to do today.
good one.
Without further ado,
Season
boom.
6, Episode 6, Treehouse of Horror 5, The Shinning, the one that we're going to come back to a lot in this episode. We have an overhead view of the family in the car. They say, well, it was a long trip, but we're almost there. And then it cuts to Tuesday. They move around the mountain, approaching the hotel. Marge, Kaching, HJ, Bart, Lisa, Maggie, Grandpa, and Cara. Did we remember to lock the front door? Doe, he says. Is that a joke, I say? That's not a good start.
Yes, it's a great start. We should explain that we are discussing The Shining and references to The Shining in The Simpsons because it's Halloween, and most of them will come from one clip called The Shinning, but I decided to divvy it up as if it was the actual movie, so there's some other references from other episodes thrown in there too. The music here is as good as the Cape Fear Sideshow Bob music, and it doesn't get any credit because it only got once. It's a very good Shining ripoff, but it has the same sort of, in the way that Cape Fear one is a direct, I'd say like 98% direct copy. This is the same, but it's got that 2% Simpsons twist in that it sounds a little bit different. It looks beautiful as well, capturing the isolation of the hotel. I haven't made any notes either.
It is beautiful, and then the actual Shining opening is also very beautiful. And apparently, I just learned that it was also repurposed for the end of Blade Runner.
The Shining ended.
The Shining beginning, the clips of the hills in Colorado mountains were repurposed for the end of Blade Runner, where he kind of escapes the city in the director's cut.
I will say now that is the joke. However, I've cut a few things for time here, so it cuts to them. They're just utilising how the Shining operates with the days thing, aren't they? Like,
oh yeah.
That's the version of the parody of this. But yeah, they leave Grandpa. They leave the door open. It cuts to Wednesday, and then they're driving again in the same place, and they realise that he hasn't locked the back door. Then it cuts to the next day, and Grandpa is no longer in the car. And Lisa says, "I think we forgot Grandpa," and he just continues to drive.
Fair enough. So clip 2, it gets to the hotel, right? Treehouse of Horror 5, Wednesday. Now we're at the entrance where they're walking through the impossible maze of the hotel. And Burns is walking past lots of suits of armors, and he says how this hotel has a colourful history. Smithers is there as well. They walk past lots of axes on the walls, and he says this was built on an ancient Indian burial ground and was the setting for satanic rituals, witch burnings, and 5 John Denver Christmas specials. Lisa looks taken aback. The others, not so much. Ooh, John Denver, shudders. Homer J. Simpson.
Yeah, I'll interject here because this is the hotel history stuff, which in the Shining film isn't that much stuff. There's a bit, but there's more in the book in terms of the like things having happened on that ground before the hotel was built there. So it's not just specifically the hotel, it's the location. And I think this is sort of a nod to that with the satanic rituals and the witch burnings. They're not making it essentially. They're sort of implying that the hotel is evil as well, which they do in the Shining film, obviously, because there was all the ghosts everywhere. But they never imply that anything happened from before the hotel, I don't think. This is how I know who John Denver is.
Well, he does. Well, he does say in The Shining that it is built on an Indian burial ground in the movie. Yeah. When they're walking outside, and I think he says they actually had to repel some Indian attacks while it was being built.
I see. Well, yes, so they do. They do directly mention that then.
And I've got a feeling it's the beginning of the Indian burial ground trope. I think it came from this.
I'm inclined to agree. They sort of got rid of they made it so it's Burns' hotel and he needs caretakers for the winter, not necessarily. They haven't tried to replicate the job interview stuff or having him be similar to the sort of friendly but vaguely ominous hotel boss.
So unlike what they probably would have done in season 29, where they would have stretched this to 30 minutes and done every single scene of The Shining, they condensed this Treehouse of Horror 5 into a 7 or 8 minute tour de force.
Yeah, it is worth noting now that I consider it the best Treehouse of Horror segment.
It's very good. But we cut now to Treehouse of Horror 1, Bad Dream House, the first attempt to do this haunted house trope. Annoyed Homer is on the phone, old Homer voice, I say, because it's clearly a very early Azuria kind of take on things. What's his name, the guy who does it? Castanoletta?
Yes, Castellaneta.
Mr. Homer Simpson here. All the family are in the pajamas. When you sold me this house, you forgot to mention one little thing. You didn't tell me it was built on an Indian burial ground, he shouts. Marge looks anxious. Angry Homer is doing the one-sided phone gag. No, you didn't. Well, that's not my recollection. Yes, well, all right. Puts the phone down and he says he mentioned it 5 or 6 times.
Nice. I thought I'd throw this in because this segment isn't specifically Shining themed, but the stuff is clearly taken from The Shining. We'll come back to it in a bit, but the house or the hotel actually directly speaking to them in the head and telling them to do things. And yeah, just like the Indian burial ground skit, very early Simpsons, where Homer's sort of terrifyingly angry in this. We say that Homer gets worse over time, but he's shouting to the point where it seems like he's going to have a heart attack. And I remember this one scaring me as a child. But yeah, just another Indian burial ground reference. And
just another one of those. Did we watch The Shining together when you were about 15 or 16 or something?
No, I vaguely remember refusing to watch the Shining DVD features with you because I was too scared. And then I can't remember the first time I watched it. It must have only been a year or two after that. But then I sort of just got really into horror gradually over the following 17 years.
I was a super scaredy cat. Like at that point, I was already into my late 20s. And I'd probably not watched The Shining much before that, to be honest. I only watched The Exorcist last year, and I still won't watch The Conjuring because I read that it's haunted.
Nice. I have seen The Exorcist. I rewatched The Exorcist like a year or two ago, and it holds up very well in terms of it not just being jump scary. Like, it's very, very creepy.
I just watched Exorcist 1, all of them. All 5 Exorcist movies. So that they did this weird thing where they made 3, then they had a long break, and then they made a 4th one. And from Hollywood shenanigans, they ended up remaking it using much of the same footage and actors. So there's 2 almost identical versions of The Shining 4, and both of them are pretty bad, to be honest. The Shining 3, pretty good. One of the scariest scenes. What is it called? Have I been saying The Shining all the way through this?
No, I think the last 2 you did. The Simpsons, in terms of timely stuff, like the Shining parody comes like 6 seasons in, so they've already done 5 Halloween specials before they get to The Shining, which sounds like it would have come earlier. They probably just had more ideas. But the Exorcist parody that they do with Maggie is in like Treehouse of Horror like 29.
Right? Maybe they just thought it was way too way too scary.
I think they probably just didn't get round to it because they had other ideas, and eventually they were like, "Oh, we've never done an Exorcist parody." But yeah, you're in luck anyway, because the guy who rebooted Halloween recently and did the first one really good, and then the second and third one just really, really badly, is doing the Exorcist
TV show.
trilogy.
Oh yeah, trilogy. Yeah.
Trilogy 3-boot with Danny McBride.
They did do a Exorcist TV show a couple of years ago, apparently, but it seems like it flew under most people's radar.
I did watch a few episodes, I think, at the time, and it was just meh.
Clip 4, season 6, episode 6, Trace of Horror 5, back to the Shinning elevator scene. The gang is walking with Burns and the Simpsons. They reach the elevators. The blood gushes out from the elevators and coalesces knee-high around the legs of the family. That's odd, says Burns. Lisa is horrified. Usually the blood gets off on the second floor.
You might think that's a weak joke, but I like it.
I do think that's a weak joke.
It's not like, there's not really any nuance to it. I just like how used to it Burns is, like this really supernatural, horrible thing that plays in well to his character. And that the blood is essentially just another part of his house that he, like a pet, essentially.
A wave of blood. I feed twice a day with the bodies.
The actual slow motion blood coming out looks really good as well. To say it's animated, it's. I wonder if you animate in slow motion or if you just slow it down.
I imagine, wouldn't it? It would, maybe.
But yeah, I like the use of Lisa here, considering there's no Lisa and Maggie characters in The Shining. They're at least keeping up Lisa's character. She's sort of the most horrified, even though she has very little to do.
A similar trope is in the next clip, which Apu and Marge are in the storeroom, I guess, of the Quickie Mart, maybe, and a wave of blood comes from around the corner. Barney being pursued by, I found out later it was cranberry juice, not blood, but it looks like blood. Barney's being pursued by this wave of blood. Indian Man, Apu and Marge look on side-eyed to each other and begin to run as Barney is fully engulfed.
Yeah, I threw this in because the Simpsons wiki referred to this as a Shining reference, which it sort of is, but it's one of those where it's sort of on the nose and it's not. Like, if you've not seen The Shining, you wouldn't know what this was about because they don't directly say this is a Shining parody.
Sure.
But it's just, I like that sometimes these things are thrown into normal episodes. So this happened before the Shining parody stuff.
Okay.
But just a fun little moment with Marge and Apu, that old duo. And
and they the story does. What's that?
I'm surprised they've only used it twice, to be honest. It's probably one of that and the twins are probably the most recognisable Shining. And here's Johnny.
Red rum. Here's Johnny.
Yes.
Come play with us, Danny, forever and ever.
Exactly, and ever.
Anyway, the storeroom in that clip does look a lot like The Shining, so I think it's. I think I'd give this. I count this no matter what, regardless. But we're up into references to the Shine itself in clip 6, where this is again the Shinning, and Willie grabs Bart. Boy, you read my thoughts. You got the Shinning. Bart says, you mean Shining? As Willie says, do you want to get sued? They're in the forest near the maze. Look, boy, if your dad goes gaga, just use that shin of yours and wiggle your fingers. And Willie wiggles his fingers.
Nice. Yeah. I'm assuming, I'm not assuming, it is just a joke that they would get sued because they've obviously obtained enough rights to this to be able to do it. And it is also directly mentioned in a second. I also like that Willie, it makes sense, to be honest, because Willie's the closest thing they've got to a caretaker, really, isn't he? It's just a variation of the word caretaker Willie.
Do you remember the name of the caretaker of the dude in The Shining that talks to Danny at the beginning and then comes back later?
Dick Halloran.
Dick Halloran. Do you know the name of the actor, though?
I do. It's like Scatman Crothers or something like that.
Scatman
right.
Crothers.
I remember that exactly. Oh, yeah. Scatman John. Boopity boop. I do, yeah. So Willie fits that role very well, and I'm glad that it was Willie who got this role, because he's sort of, it is like, for The Simpsons, this is one of the scariest things they've done in terms of just going for it. And I think Willie is one of the moments where they just thought, no, we have to put in something that's like stupidly funny. So let's throw in Gretzky for Willie.
Nice. Wait a minute, I better tell the boy to eat some curry.
Yes, I will chase a ball and a stick. we can leave that in, and it sounds like they have a child.
Very good. Yes.
Woof.
And what about this bit? Clip 7.
Go on.
Clip 7. Don't worry, Mum. I'll use my Shinning to call Willie. Eerie string noises start. We see Willie in bed with green wallpaper and a saucy bagpipes lass above the bed, watching a tiny handheld TV. Brockman is on it, and he says, and that was the first time she'd ever flown a plane. The humming begins. Willie leaps up. Oh, little far boy and his family are in trouble. Fat boy.
Love that boy. Yeah. This is from a bit later on. This is my time jumping thing, just because he mentions the Shinning again. It is funnier to call it the Shinning, to be honest, and that sounds natural coming from Willie as well.
William Groundskeeper.
Yes. I like the Kent Brockman stuff that is just out of context in this as well. There's a bit more of it later that you can't really hear, and I want to look into what it says. But he's obviously just he's like mid-reporting some kind of like fluff news about some. I always assumed it was a dog or a cat or something he's talking about. And I do like that Willie calls him the little fat boy. It's just unnecessarily mean.
And considering he's not really, is he?
No, not at all. And they've also made it much more convenient that they've just put Willie in his shack outside of the grounds of the hotel as opposed to being like back in Florida or something.
Yes.
So he doesn't have to. Much like in The Shining, when he makes the entire trip that must have taken hours to provide no use other than to leave a snowplow or whatever.
Well, the thing, and spoiler, it's brilliant, really, how he goes all the way there only to be instantly murdered.
Yes, immediately. Like the thing that they do in this is not much different in terms of how long Scatman is useful.
The scat.
Yes. Continue.
Clip 8, the boy who knew too much. We're on a school bus with angry Otto. The regular school bus broke down, so take a seat before I blow your head off, he shouts at Bart and Lisa. Oh, I'm sorry, but this buzz and I have a sort of shining thing going on. Then he looks afraid as the doors slam shut, and they all look afraid.
Yeah, this is weird. I've not watched this one for a while, so I don't know if there's any more. Doesn't look like it, though. There's no more to this Otto thing at all. So it's sort of a weird non-joke. Like, there isn't anything. Usually there's something either built around or built to in a joke, isn't there? And neither of those things happen here. He just is angry and mentions The Shining. By name as well, he says The Shining.
Yeah.
And this is pre-Trace of Horror 5, 6, whatever it is. So this happens prior to that. But yeah, I just threw it in because they mention it by name. I think that's the first direct name drop in The Simpsons for The Shining.
Well, we continue on to the red rum section. Notable in the movie for Danny writing red rum as he's possessed by Tony the Tiger. In this clip, Homer is watching TV as McGaggy is making red rum on blocks in front of him. We follow this up with clip 10, which is from season 4, episode 14, the Brogue from Dame Planet, in which Milhouse is writing backwards. Pick up Bart. He starts to speak Twin Peaks-ish. Trab, poo, sip, and starts waggling his finger. Kirk storms in and says, what have we told you about writing on the walls? And a third finger-wiggling, Shinning reference comes from season 9, episode 9, Reality Bites, which we've actually seen before, in which Devil heard Todd is wiggling his finger, saying, red room, over there, and he has a red stain on his pink shirt.
Nice. This is the most referenced thing then, I think, with three separate references to it. The Maggie one is a blink and you'll miss it thing, which is cool, and I did also think it obviously makes a lot of sense for it to be in this one, but I thought she'd just done that in a regular episode, because normally, especially earlier on, when Maggie is doing something, it's usually something highly intelligent, so she'll have like a full sentence written out in blocks, or like you're doing like complicated maths or something. So I thought it had just been in a regular episode, but no, it's here, which makes it better, because maybe all of them have a little bit of shit in then, if Maggie can either that or Maggie is hyper aware and is just referenced in The Shining because she knows what's going on in a meta way.
Either way, it's good stuff for the baby.
The Milhouse one, I find it interesting that you said it was Twin Peaks-ish, despite the fact that red rum is also a backwards word.
Yeah, but he doesn't say it backwards, does he? Oh, I guess he does, doesn't he? He goes red rum. So he does say it, you're right. So I forgot that.
And then Todd also says it, but yeah, with people that has been discussed on this podcast before, I believe. Woof.
Not by our cousins, though.
No, our cousins. Yeah, that's sort of the best, easiest one to reference because it's creepy, and I'm surprised. I'm glad one of the Flanders kids got it at some point because they're supposed to be creepy, apparently. Milhouse is a fun one too, but yeah, I'd say that's the most iconic moment, and they don't really do it with Bart at all in the Shining thing. Like there is no Tony in this Shinning thing because they just didn't have the time. But I reckon if they'd done, they probably would have divvied it up and probably have him be the Shining one and Lisa have the imaginary friend. But yeah, like you say, if they'd done it now and done like a 45-minute, 2-episode long parody of it, it might have made it in there. But for now, it didn't.
Still time.
Neither did the next clip.
I'd also say that the Milhouse one it seems to have no real reason for them using a Shining reference in it.
No, they're just sort of setting up the home. There's a few things that are happening around. Homer said he's going to pick up Bart. Well, Marge said, are you going to pick up Bart? He says, I'm on my way. But he's actually answering what's that program called? The Jeopardy.
Oh, yeah.
Where you solve like the answers, the word
right.
puzzle, and he's just shouting out the answers to that, which happens to be "I'm on my way." Then there's like 3 or 4 things happen that imply that the universe is trying to tell him to pick up Bart, and that Milhouse one is one of them, even though he can't see it.
Yes, even though he's not there and can't see it. Crypt 12, we're on to the Grady twins stuff now. Back to the Treehouse of Horror 5. Bart is skateboarding down the corridors through the hotel. As he passes doors and vampires, Wolfman, Mummy, a slasher, a vampire, Freddy Krueger, and Pinhead pop out behind him, and a vampire. As he stops and turns back round, all the doors slam and they pop back in. And there he turns, and Sherry and Terry are there, face forward. Sherry and Terry, in genuinely terrifying voice, "Your daddy's going to kill you." Ah, Bart screams. Ah, Bart screams, and he turns to see Patty and Selma, pseudo Grady twins-esque. "They are right, they said. They are smoking, and I guess their throats have been cut as the smoke comes out of the throat hole. Too gruesome for Sherry and Terry, I say." Bart rides away.
Nice. This is a rare one because this is actually just a deleted scene. This never made it in. So
Yes.
The twins, which again, one of the most recognizable things from The Shining, they didn't actually have anything to do with them in the finished episode, but they released this deleted bit, which I only saw like a couple of years ago. And if you listen to it, the creepiest thing about it is there's no music because they didn't get around to that, but you can hear from the start of that clip, if you listen to it properly, you can hear Sherry and Terry on a loop singing "Your daddy's gonna kill you" as he's riding down that hallway on the skateboard.
Really? That is creepy. I'm going to have a listen back
horrible.
to that.
And I think they might have got rid of this because it is genuinely too scary. But I don't know about the throat slitting thing because the third part of this Halloween special is that one where the teachers eat all the kids.
Okay.
Which is one of the darkest and grimmest ones they've ever done. So I don't think they were averse to showing Sherry and Terry in any kind of pain. It's just sort of, I assume it's just because Patty and Selma smoke, so that they could do something with it. But yeah, there's also not really a joke here. Like the Patty and Selma thing is the joke, but it's not solid enough to leave it in, and it might have been. I can see why they cut it because it's more genuinely creepy than anything funny to balance it out.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. The Sherry and Terry stuff made sense, was in the movie, and then to cut to Patty and Selma made no sense. Really. And as you said, it was not funny.
No, just twins.
I guess so. Clip 13, Lloyd. Lloyd being the barman in The Shining. If you are listening to this and you haven't watched The Shining, maybe pause, go back and watch it. It's a great movie.
It is.
Have you ever seen the TV version with John Voight as Jack Torrance?
I have. It's more book based, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff in the book that just doesn't make it in, probably because of practical convenience, like all those topiary animals that move. There's loads of stuff. There's stuff in the book where in the book the hotel's directly talking to him almost entirely the whole way through. There's also no "Here's Johnny" in the book, and there's the whole thing about the big topiary animals that aren't even in the film at all. Like, around the hedge maze, there's supposed to be like big, like lion, like sort of what Ned and Maud made with that angel that time. But and they like move around and like attack him towards the end, I'm sure.
But Kubrick deliberately stripped back a lot of those, not for practical reasons, because Kubrick at that point, I'm pretty sure, could have done anything.
Yeah, I can see why Stephen King wasn't a fan of the film. However, I am a big fan of the film, but I'm also a big fan of the book. But if it got made today and came out now, people would say, "Oh, this is nothing like the book. This is not good." But
maybe it wouldn't be like the book.
Maybe it would be though. And the crappy sequel was pretty much exactly like the book, the Doctor Sleep one.
The book was the Doctor Sleep was no good. It was terrible.
No, book and film not good.
But apparently, one of the biggest problems that that King had with Kubrick's version was that the character of Jack Torrance was kind of based on Stephen King, and was supposed to be kind of an everyman who kind of lost his way and fell under the spell of the hotel. Whereas clearly Jack Nicholson is not an everyman. He's a psychopath from the very second we see him.
Yeah, there's the stuff about like the alcoholism as well and how much that sort of affects who he is. But he is just sort of an evil maniac. Like when they're driving in the car on the way to the hotel, there's no implications that that's a happy family. Like they just drive angrily in silence.
Oh, and there's all the stuff about the counselling and stuff, and there's a lot of stuff online about the deeper underlying themes of that family. It's not good. It's not happy stuff. But anyways, what's that?
It's all based around the moon.
Sure, the moon, the fake moon landings, which the Simpsons don't reference in this.
No.
Tracer Horror 5, we're back to Lloyd. Homer's in the gold room at the big bar and Moe appears. So what'll it be, Homer? Moe. Give me a beer, he demands. No, says Moe, arms folded. Not unless you kill your family. Homer's aghast. Why should I kill my family? Moe thinks and shrugs. They'll be much happier as ghosts. You don't look so happy, says Homer. Oh, I'm very happy. Very happy, Moe leans in aggressively. La, 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 angry dance. He grabs Homer's shirt, pulls him up. Now, waste your family and I'll give you a beer.
It works a lot better with Moe. Again, good use of somebody with a personality that we've already got to get the story moving. Like, they don't have time to explain. The reason he has to kill his family is because they're in a Shining parody. That's it. So Moe doesn't have time to explain. And just is just there to move the plot along. And he does it in a great way because he's, like, say if, like, for some reason, like, Moe was the next door neighbor and he was still the same character, but, like, the angry sort of, like, gross guy. And Ned was the barman, but still the friendly, happy guy. Like, it wouldn't have worked to have Ned, the barman, appear here because it wouldn't have been forceful enough to get the ball rolling. Whereas Moe is just, you need to go and kill your family and I'll give you a beer. Why? I'm happy. You don't need to know anymore. Just go and do it.
See, that's where I disagree. I think if they had used Ned or someone like Ned, the horror undertones would have given it an interesting twist.
True. They have already had Ned be the devil, so they've sort of played that surprising thing now. But I'm just saying that it's just convenient that the barman that they have is an aggressive character, so they didn't have to. It wasn't much of a stretch for them to just, like, Moe was the character who should have played that barman in this, and conveniently he's an aggressive arsehole.
Very good. It all works, just like Willie and just like Otto in that buzz. Clip 15 is from season 30, episode 19, The Girls in the Band. Homer is waltzing with a nuclear-suited man, and a generic Shining ballroom music plays as the room warps from the cafeteria of the nuclear power plant, I think, into a gold room full of people and fun times. Lloyd is there. Nuclear safety gloves. Hands reach out from the wall and take Homer's jacket. The eye wash station morphs into a fountain and the waltz goes on. The buzz caller vending machine molts into Lloyd and he says, "The usual, sir. Thank you, Lloyd. Let me say,
you, more than anyone.
Let me say, more than anyone, you enable a descent into madness better than more than anyone. Takes a beer from the bar. I understand the family is getting to be a bit of a problem, says Lloyd.
Yeah, this went on for a while, but he was just, I don't understand the context of it because it seems like the episode itself seems like a Whiplash parody with Lisa and J.K. Simmons. So I don't understand how this Shining thing plays into it at all. And I didn't choose to watch it. So I think this Lloyd thing just goes on where it just basically the Mo thing, but with more like you do need to kill your family, and Homer decides not to, I think, obviously, but I don't know how it relates to anything. But it is very nice. It's weird that they've come back to it, 24 years later for them, since the last time they really did a Shining thing properly. But they didn't do this last time, so I don't mind that they've come back to it, because this would have fit in nicely with the Shinning. It doesn't feel out of place. And I've just Googled now, and Lloyd is voiced here by Dave Matthews.
From the Dave Matthews Band?
Yeah.
Very good.
Don't know why.
Clip 16. Run to the typewriter bit. Clip 16. Clip 16.
Yes.
Run to the typewriter bit, back to the Treehouse of Horror 5. In the dark dining room, the typewriter is on the table. Marge says what he types will be a window into his madness. A high-pitched strings. We zoom in on the feeling fine that is typed where we would have expected to be all work and no play. It says, feeling fine. Well, that's a relief. The lightning flashes to reveal that the walls are strewn with no beer and no TV make Homer go crazy. Marge is wide-eyed and grumbles as the room pans around her. This is less than encouraging.
Yes. Will you put your notes back on for me? It helped me remember what I was going to say.
In lieu of having my own.
Also, I think we missed a clip, but we'll come back to that in a second. I think this is scarier. The idea of this is scarier than what happens in the actual Shining. Like, it wouldn't have been feasible, and it wouldn't have made sense for it to happen in the actual Shining. But the idea of her thinking that she's going to see something and then it being completely like relieving, and then all of that stuff being written on the walls is psychologically scary.
It's a jump. It's a jump scare, isn't it?
Yes, and they do that thing. I don't know if it's now or in a second where it sort of like it pans the whole way around Marge, doesn't it? Stood in the middle, like face forward Marge.
Yeah.
With like the lightning on her. It just very well done. Very like no joke. Just the joke is feeling fine, but just kind of genuinely scary.
Well done, Korea.
Yes. I'll just sort of, there's not really anything to say about it, but yeah, there was another Lloyd thing with that in the future, and who's a president's brother? Go up one. You have got it. I saw it there. There you go. Back to the Future.
14, season 11, episode 17. Back to the Future. Teenage Bart with a little pony rat's tail and a pencil and paper. He's stressed. But Lisa's counting on me for this coolness report as a man in dungarees appears with a beer glass. Coolness report? Oh, you've been had, boy. Wide eyes Bart says. Billy Carter's ghost? And the man says, damn straight, as he pulls a reel. I ask, beer?
Yeah, this goes on a bit again, similar to the Dave Matthews Lloyd, so I didn't leave it in, but this is just in a regular episode. Well, it's still like, it's a future one, so they can take more liberties, but I don't know if they imply this is a hologram, because I've not watched it for a while, but it's just, he's in the White House and Lisa is president. This is the one where they mentioned Trump, and everybody went wild.
Oh, yeah.
But she's basically given him something to do to keep him busy, because he won't leave. So she's asked him to write a coolness report, and he's taking it seriously. And yeah, this Billy Carter, whose brother? Jimmy Carter.
I imagine so.
Yeah. Basically says that he's like the loser brother, and Lisa's the Jimmy Carter of the family, and he needs to accept it. So it works sort of the reverse of what I think he tells him to get revenge. So that's why it's in here. It's usually it's like a light-hearted version of Kill Your Family. But yeah. So again, 3 references to Lloyd.
3 references to Lloyd. Quite an obscure part of the show, as we don't get any to Grady the caretaker.
No, I thought that.
So then we are into another all work and no play typewriter style gag. This is from a chalkboard gag. The Last Temptation of Homer, season 17, season 5, episode 9. Sorry, Bart is writing. All work and no play makes Bart a dull boy. He is angry. Now, I also saw that when you zoom out, I don't know whether this was a later one. There is a version where I guess Stephen King is writing all work and no play. all over
there
the
is
walls.
that is a different one. There's a few ones that I just couldn't be bothered putting in here. I'm just going to read a list at the end of other things that they've done, but yeah, that's one of them. I think that's from A Trace of Horror, where he's writing. Yeah, it's just a version of the chalkboard gag, but Stephen King is writing this
on the wall, like Homer did in the Shinning.
Yes. That is accurate. I don't know if I'm right here or not, but Guillermo del Toro did a Treehouse of Horror opening credit sequence for them with a lot of horror references, and it might be this one.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm surprised it took them 5 seasons to work this into a chalkboard gag, though.
Yeah, it's a pretty obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah, I say it's the most obvious repeated writing in cultural history.
Yes. Again, that brings us to clip 18. Season episode 10, Springfield Files. Outside of Moe's Tavern, the typing comes on screen, Moe's bar, time and the temperature. Then it scrolls up, all work and no play, etc., etc. It didn't seem to have really any connection to The Shining or really any reason for them doing the scrolling thing.
No, this is more because it's an X-Files parody, this episode, which again, one of my favourite episodes ever, with Alien Burns, who almost made the Halloween cut this year. This is more because the X-Files show that thing of like time and dates in every scene, so they wanted to replicate that, and I think they just sort of wanted to make it funnier. So there's a few where they stop. This is the third example of them just showing title on the bottom of the screen that's supposed to be the time and date like the X-Files, but it's something different.
Right. Yes.
And again, it's the obvious one to go for, basically.
Yeah, it's not a highlight of this of these clips, but I tell you what, the next one is clip 19, Madness Hotel in Head, Treehouse of Horror 5. Homer flies in, door open. All of the walls are covered in this writing. Homer says, "What do you think, Marge? All he needs is a title." He's doing a Nicholson-esque drawl. And I was thinking something along the lines of, no TV and no beer makes Homer go something, something. Classic line as Marge suggests, "Go crazy." Homer shouts, "Don't mind if I do." He begins to gurn and stretch and does classic mad moves. Marge runs for the glass case on the wall with a baseball bat in it. It says, "In case of spousal insanity, break glass." She does, and she wields the bat at Homer. "Stay away from me, Homer." She begins to back up the stairs as Homer tells her to give him the bat. Come on, crazy HJ. He gurns, and then he turns and looks at his face on a very well-placed mirror, screams in fright, and falls backwards down the stairs.
This entire clip is the Simpsons firing on all cylinders. This is what it could be if everybody brought this level of A game. From the Homer, there's the Kubrick thing, isn't there, where he gets people to do the eyes, looking up, so your eyes are at the top of you. You pupils at the top of your eye. Like he does it in Full Metal Jacket as well, doesn't he? When the guy starts sort of going loopy in the place,
in the head,
in the army camp. So they've got that thing where Homer's pupils are sort of looking upwards like Kubrick, and then you've got the actual dialogue is funny, then the delivery is funny, and then it's drawn really well, it's paced really well. There's nothing here that I can say that's bad. This is certainly not Maud's funeral.
Our cousins would say.
Yes, our friends. Woof. I don't really have anything specific to say about this other than how good it is. It's like the peak of this story as well, isn't it? In terms of this is where it changes and he becomes they don't waste any time making the descent slow either. It's just Burns takes away the beer and the cable to make everybody work harder. And Smithers says, "Do you not think this is why all the caretakers keep killing the families?" He just says, "We'll come back and they're all dead. I owe you a Coke." And this is no waste of time. It's like Homer doesn't have beer or TV, and this is what he would do.
This is the Simpsons firing on all cylinders.
Yes, I agree.
This is the pinnacle of comedic Shining references, I believe.
Yes.
And the classic line of "all beer and no TV makes Homer go something, something. Go crazy. Yeah. Don't mind if I do." That's top draw.
Yeah, and then The faces he makes and the noises just goes full crazy.
Gurning. But that moves on to clip 20, which is Treehouse of Horror 1. Back to the bad house. We are the house exterior. Barty's in bed in a big empty room, and the voice begins as the bed undulates, and they are all against you, Marge. You must kill them all. They all must die. Is that Kelsey Grammer? Bart sits up. Are you my conscience? Yes, I am, says the voice. Is it James Earl Jones? Cut to Lisa staring at ceiling. Lisa, he calls her name outside a gnarled tree, moves suggestively. The butcher knife suggests the house. She reaches into a chest of drawers next to her bed, exclamation mark, and pulls out a big knife. Cut to Homer Simpson wielding an axe. They are all against me. Shadows.
Yes, it is James Earl Jones. I think he's in all three of the first Treehouse of Horror segments. This is just like a less funny, much darker version of the Homer going crazy thing, but this is more book-based again, where it's them being directly influenced. This house, or like the hotel or whatever, is telling them that they can't trust the family. And the Homer holding the axe and the way he looks is, I imagine, a direct Shining reference, because he looks very Nicholson in that bit.
He looks very Nicholson indeed.
They kind of go away from it in a little. Well, not really. They just sort of talk to the house, and then it chooses it would rather kill itself than live with the boy.
Yeah, then it kind of disappears, doesn't it? It zips into this into nothingness.
Yeah, and there's like a portal in the washing machine, so it's it's sort of very loosely Shining based. So they don't really. There's nothing else in our thing now from that, because it goes off on a little more of a non-Shining tangent.
So it reminds me. That's always reminded me of one of my favorite little comic horror things when I was a kid. It was from like a Marvel comic, and there was a guy always protesting about how he wasn't scared of ghosts and haunted houses. So he was, he had to spend the night in this haunted house, and he gets out in the morning and he's like, yeah, there was nothing scary. That was fine. And his friend says, oh, just come back to the house with me. And it's just an empty lot. There's no house there.
Nice. It's creepy.
It's spooky. It's spooky and creepy. Clip 19, clip 21, season 30, episode 19, Girls in the Band. So Burns and Smithers and Simon Pink Beardman are in the basement of the nuclear power plant. Burns is
shouting. There's no point making notes if you don't know what they say at the time.
I'm usually at least able to decipher them.
I'd call into question that.
Burns says whatever happens on the shift stays on. Whatever happens on the night shift stays in the night shift. An unconvincing Nicholson walks past with an axe. I'm going to hurt you, he says menacingly off screen. I'm going to bash your brains in, I say, in a somewhat accurate but not funny Nicholson tribute.
Yeah, I don't know. This is that same episode with the radioactive Homer and the Lloyd, so I think they're just making another Shining joke because they've already done one, but it's too on the nose, and this is Castellaneta as Nicholson, and I just don't think it's very good.
No, it is not good. Unconvincing Nicholson is how I described it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, surely anybody with even a grain of mimicry salt can do a decent Nicholson.
But it's just sort of, I'd say it's just lazy. Like, there's nothing, this is the opposite of the one we've just looked at, in that it's the Simpsons not firing on all cylinders.
Firing on no cylinders.
Yeah. The cylinders have been removed.
They were never. The cylinders have always been here.
Come back to the cylinders. They are gone.
Clip 22, Joseph Horror 5 again. Here's Johnny part. Yes, and as you said, the Here's Johnny was, I guess, improvised by Nicholson at the time, because that's what Johnny Carson used to say when he came onto his late show, right? He'd say, here's Johnny. So Homer is wielding an axe. He blasts through the door. The Simpsons are eating at the table. He pushes his head through. Here's Johnny. Oh, no one's there, he says, Doe. In the next door, he shouts, David Letterman. Very bad joke. Grandpa is there. Hi, David. I'm Grandpa, he waves. In the third door, I'm Mark Wallace, Arnie Schaefer, and I'm Ed Bradley. And all this, and Andy Rooney on tonight's 60 Minutes. He pulls out a stopwatch. The family screams and runs.
Nice. I think this is quite funny. I think just the last bit, again, is very creepy, with his face through the door with the eyes up and the smile and the little stopwatch as well makes it creepier for some reason. But I do like that he's because he's Homer, he got the wrong door and used the line too early, so then he just started naming different openings from other late night shows.
I'll give you that to some degree, but I really didn't like the "I'm David Letterman" or "Hi David" back and forth with Grandpa. I thought that
and the Grandpa thing seems pointless, and I feel like that is there because they said at the beginning we forgot Grandpa, but didn't we leave Grandpa at the gas station? But it's a Treehouse of Horror segment. Like it wasn't. We didn't need to see Grandpa again to make sure he was okay. So yeah, I don't understand. I think it's just because they wanted to do 3 and they didn't want to have him do it twice with 2 empty rooms. But they should have just had a ghost.
Power of 3, isn't it? Now we're to our favourite part, the Dick Halloran part, Statman John. Willie runs really runs through the open doors in his nightgown. There's a lot of these about. Allow me to show you what I've got. HJ slams an axe into Willie's back. Is that the best you can do? He says before falling down dead.
Yes, I'll let you do the next 2 as well.
This is the Treehouse of Horror 5 also. So Willie is in the kitchen. I can't get to you home, but you have to do exactly. Maggie is thrusting an axe unhelpfully into Willie's back. He falls dead. Clip 25, Treehouse of Horror 5, back Nightmare Cafeteria. Willie is in the corridor pointing. I'm coming to rescue the lot of you as Skinner slams an axe into his back. Oh, I'm bad at this, says Willie's. So that's 3 times that Willie has an axe thrust into his back, a la The Shining.
Yeah, I was just looking through there. I thought they'd done it. I thought they'd done a callback to it in later seasons, but I can't find anything. I just like that they continued this. Sometimes they'll do a thing. They'll continue something from a segment throughout all 3 of the Halloween bits, and they just decided. I imagine they had the first one and the last one because the last one happens in the school, so it would make sense. And then they just throw in the middle one because they wanted all 3.
So in all 3 clips, he gets that particular Treehouse of Horror. In all 3 clips, he gets an axe in his back. Is that
yeah, the last one he does say I'm bad at this as well. So he's sort of somewhat aware that it's happened to him twice already. The middle one when Maggie does it as well, she says this is indeed a disturbing universe, and that is also James Earl Jones.
She takes the thing out, doesn't she? She takes the dummy out and says it.
Yeah, and I like that Willie, I think it might be in the one after this actually, but the Freddy Krueger Willie stuff is like really creepy and scary, and he's like a very good scary villain. I like in this one that he's the sort of like comforting hero that doesn't help at all. And I do like that it happens thrice. But this is exactly what happens in The Shining, like almost to the same like comedic timing.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, who else would do that in a movie? Have somebody just? I mean, in a way, it mirrors what happened in Psycho as well, where you not really, but that kind of like cutaway where he builds up something like you think that the first person's going to be the main heroine of the story or the main character in the story, and then she just gets murdered like 20 minutes in or something like that.
Or Scream, if you will, with Barrymore. That's the modern Hitchcock, isn't it? Where they promoted it with Drew Barrymore's like all over all of the first Scream stuff, and then they kill her off before the credits. It's that thing, isn't it? But yeah, Psycho is there.
I'm calling that for the new Wolverine Deadpool thing. I'm calling that like Hugh Jackman comes in as Wolverine and he's like dies within the first 2 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, like they sort of already did it with the invisible Brad Pitt thing, didn't they? But I can't see it being a full vehicle for the 2 of them.
Who is this invisible Brad Pitt?
In that second Deadpool, when he gets that X-Force team, doesn't he? When the invisible guy gets electrocuted and it's Brad Pitt. Not Groundskeeper Willie.
Nope. Clip 26. We're at the ending now. There's some stirring strings as Marge and the kids are in the snow and they're being chased by Homer with the axe. The snow is thick. It's tough going as Lisa falls and sees Brockman on the tiny TV. Been given a rifle but no ammunition. Angry Homer raises his axe. Dad, look, says Lisa and shows him the TV. He gasps and grabs the television. Teach lover, secret mother. He looks at the urge to kill fading and fading as he slumps back in the snow and he leans with his family. This is risky, I say. He screams and then
he gets them all to come over to them. There's urge to kill, fading, fading, fading. As they walk over, he screams, rising, and then starts saying fading again.
That's right. They all breathe a sigh of relief as he says, "Come sit in the snow with Daddy and let us all bask in television's warming glow." They all snuggle. Musically, we cut away, and then we come back, and the whole family is frozen in the snow, like Jack is at the end of the Shining spoiler. Live from Broadway tonight, the Tony Awards with your hosts Tyne Daly and Hal Linton. Frozen Bart insists on changing the channel. Homer can't. He says he's frozen.
Nice. This like the music thing and the cut to Frozen Homer is also very creepy, and it's like that's like directly taken from The Shining. Even like the noise, I think, is the same noise, isn't it? Like the whatever that noise is. It's what's the thing Lynch used it as well, didn't he? The Hiroshima.
Yeah, it's the Threnody for Hiroshima by Penderecki.
Yeah. Terrible. But yeah, that's got a lot of like, I don't know what instrument it is, but you know, a lot of like shocking noises that sound like screams.
Like animal screams as well are all
Kesha,
dollar sign. It was Penderecki, the Threnody, and yeah, he uses Lynch uses it in season 3, episode 8, right?
Yeah, the wacky,
in a far more literal sense, because it's accompanying an atomic bomb detonation.
Yes, that is more literal than this.
I never liked that Frozen cut back to Torrance in the end. I don't think that's a good ending.
I think it's creepy, like the jump scare or like the jump moment. But sort of the climax of the film really is sort of, not that it's not the best horror film ever made, but once sort of Danny's done that thing in the woods where he's covered his tracks, it's all over anyway. There isn't any more sort of tension. Danny covers his tracks and hides, and then it just sort of pans out, or like you just see Jack being lost and like screaming for like 2 minutes, which is fine, but they should have maybe just ended it with him being lost in the maze and just continuing.
That's what I would have thought, that he was still there, but he was just lost and submerged back into the hotel where the spirit waits for the next group to come along.
Yeah, it's two things from the ending here that they missed for some reason, and I find it quite odd. I don't know why this isn't happening in the maze. I think just because it makes more logical sense for them to try and escape than run into the maze in this situation, because they're not as isolated. But also, Bart earlier on with the Willy thing is just chainsawed holes through the entire maze and said, I found like the middle of the maze or something. So they sort of set up earlier on that the maze was out of use, but also the photograph, they didn't do anything with the photograph.
No, exactly.
At the end, the most sort of controversial part of it, and like nothing to do with the book again, but then again, like the most open-ended sort of, still not really explained. You can sort of make assumptions as to what it is, but it still makes no literal sense. Within you have to think about and assume your own ideas as to what it is. It doesn't directly, that isn't like, like the twist reveal ending where it's all explained because of that picture or something.
Yeah, it's a what year is this? It's a Lynchian kind of cycles and that's better than the frozen popsicle Jack in the maze. I don't think we need that.
Yeah, it's just kind of odd that they didn't. I suppose just because they'd already ended on a joke, but odd that they didn't, because it wouldn't have taken any animation other than to draw a picture to have like Homer and Moe and just throw in a couple of those ghouls that we've seen. We have missed quite a lot to say that we've covered like 26 clips. We've actually missed out some of the Shinning stuff, like when Moe, like Marge locks Homer in the pantry, like he does in the movie, and he's just let out by Moe and the other ghouls. Whereas in the film, there's the whole thing of how did he get out, because there's kind of the thing where you can read it that there's no supernatural stuff going on, it's all in his head, but then how did he get out of the pantry? I've watched videos before and stuff where like it does look like there is other ways out for him. It looks like there's a door. There's the whole thing about a door. I'll try and find you the video of like realistically there should be, and it looks like there is a second door in that pantry, and it's just there's things in front of it intentionally and stuff. And like the thing about the chair as well, like there's a bit where you see the chair, don't you, and then it's moved when he's typing on the typewriter, and it's a different chair.
Yeah, I mean, there's all those kind of little tricks, the impossible geography of the hotel, of course, and the
The Shining.
The nature, as you say, like you could read it as there being no ghosts, and that the unlocking of the door being the only thing in the entire movie that doesn't seem to be able to be explained by anything other than supernatural.
Yeah, some people have had a decent crack at explaining how it could be. It could play into Kubrick still having this idea of it not being supernatural at all. He flew a rocket out of it and had a quick stop off at the moon and then flew back.
Fair enough. So all in all, before we get to the surprisingly large amount of Simpsons Shining art, is there are you happy? Are you disappointed? Is there more to be done by Simpsons Shining references?
No, I'm very happy. Almost nigh disappointed. I'll just quickly read off the other references though now that I chose to leave out because some of them are a stretch even for us. Trace of Horror 6, the producer Richard Sakai's name appears as Red Rum Richard Sakai, which I think it does in this one as well, to be honest. Apparently in Trace of Horror 9, Homer knocks a door in the hall with a mallet, which apparently is a reference, and it's not, because he just hits a door with a mallet. When Homer writes, guess who's coming to criticize dinner? When Homer writes out his first restaurant review, he has a hard time getting it to 500 words, so he pads it out by typing the phrase "Screw Flanders" over and over again at the end, which I don't see that as a reference at all. You see the novel in Insane Clown Poppy, which was weirdly covered by our mates last week. Homer hits a water softener with an axe, apparently is also a thing.
Anytime anyone hits anything with an axe, it's a Shining reference.
Apparently. How I Wet Your Mother. In Homer's dream, Robin Williams appears saying that Stanley Kubrick wanted him to star in The Shining.
Is that true? I don't think that's true.
No, the one that you mentioned with Stephen King. Castellaneta was credited as he as Danny once in the horror episodes. Homer refers to his STEM conference hotel bar as being beautiful, like the one in The Shining. All that girls in the band shit. Come play with us, Danny Weber. Homer in the Exorcist parody, which is Simpsons episode 666 as well. Homer puts up a post. This is quite clever. He puts up a post for Nemo on Maggie's wall and sees it backwards in the mirror, and it says Omen, which is a Red Rum /Exorcist /Omen thing.
Very good.
And last but not least, in the Tapped Out, you can play as one of the costumes of Sherry and Terry as the twins.
Very nice. That's a hell of a lot of Shining references, but I still think if they did a straight up 30-minute Shining reference, a Shining episode, they could squeeze out some fun stuff out of it.
Yeah, I'd still be on board for that, maybe.
Good. Well, let's have a look at some of the many pieces of Simpsons art that is also Shining reference, sometimes based on the show and sometimes just mashups. This one is more like a mashup. I think it's a hand cast and painted Simpsons. Homer Simpson is the Shining Jack from I Had That Toy on Etsy.
Yeah, this is very, very good. This is one of the best custom Simpson toys I've ever seen. How was this made? Hand cast with what?
I don't know. Probably like they made like a mold out of clay and they cast it that way, old style.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good. It's Homer, but as Jack, which they could have done that in the parody. Really, they just wouldn't have made any sense. But it does look very cool, and the eyes are great. The eyes and the mouth are very good. Yeah,
it's very good indeed. All right, second up is from Thrasher Head, in which Bart is riding his tricycle around and he runs into Kang and Kodos as the twins with red rum
this is
all
great.
over the wall.
This is great and would have made more sense because they do like to drop in Kang and Kodos in every Trace of Horror somewhere. I think they just appeared in the Toaster time traveling one. But yeah, this would have made it in there and would have been funnier and better than Sherry and Terry. They have a third eye as well for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reference is of that, what the relevance is, but they are
well done.
Very, very well done indeed. Takes us on to a quite realistic painting of the Slasher by the Slasher. Slasher. With a quite faithful recreation of the Here's Johnny scene with Homer aggressively smashing through a door with an axe and and a very convincing Marge screaming.
Yeah, this is again beautiful art. That Homer is like essentially perfect, isn't it? Like it's very well rendered, and the Marge somehow looks like Marge, but she also looks like Shelley Duvall somehow. I don't know if it's just the holding the knife is reminding me of that being more realistic to the film, and the hair looks like Grover.
Yeah, they got, because it's been rendered. Obviously, it's digital. They've got some kind of realistic metal and wood kind of things. Look, his hand is literally just a person's hand.
That's true. Marge. Oh yeah, you just can't see her thumb, but she has 3 fingers.
Don't we
But it's
all?
great.
It is indeed. So here is a PB Mahoney art. It is a drawing of a saucy Marge, her down, semi-naked, coming out of the shower. But as it's
completely,
she's covered. She's covered by the glass door. You can see just the saucy outline of her body. But the reflection in the mirror is the ghoul from room 237.
Yes, again, very, very good. I would have preferred this if one of the ghoul was Patty or Selma. It kind of does look like the hair is Patty or Selma-esque. But no, this is very cool. I also think this would have been a good Maud one. It would have been a good place to see Maud in that role. Some kind of horrific, like the ghost version of it that we've seen before. But
sure.
Yeah. And
But
again, they just completely missed this part out of this parody.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
But there's so many iconic parts of The Shining. That's the point. It's ripe for parody because there's 20, 30 different iconic things. The fact that they can miss out something like the Room 237 and not even be missed is huge.
True. Have you seen Ready Player One?
No, but I've seen the references to The Shining in Ready Player One.
Yeah, there's like a solid, probably as long as this Shinning parody amount of time. Like they spend like a lot of time in the hotel and stuff with the twins. It's weird.
Right. Here is a T-shirt called "Why You Little Torrance" by Shirtoid, and it is Homer as Jack strangling Bart as Danny.
Beautiful art, perhaps not T-shirt material though. It's not something I would walk around displaying on my chest.
No, even if people got the reference.
Yeah, it is accurate. It is. The reference is that in The Shining that Danny abuses Jack. So even if people got the reference, I still don't think that would be worth wearing the T-shirt.
Danny abuses Jack. Jack abuses Danny.
Yes, that is correct.
That is correct.
And then, because there's a whole thing, that's why she doesn't really believe any of the supernatural stuff, because he's already broken his arm at some point, hasn't he?
Yeah, dislocated his shoulder, right? Because his arm, because is drunk and angry. Yeah, apparently there's a lot of that backstory, woven in. Like he lost his job as a teacher at some point because of this kind of anger.
Yes,
deep within him.
Good design, good T-shirt. Probably not for wearing. What?
So now we're into the DALL-E 2 pics. Apparently, this is what happens if you type in a still of Homer Simpson in The Shining. You then get a pretty creepy 4-fingered Homer. I don't know what he's doing.
He looks like Bruce Willis in that Planet of the Apes Troy McClure musical as one of the apes.
He's got proper big Hugh Laurie eyes and a big slappy forehead. It's funny. I love the DALL-E stuff, but it does not seem like a very good Shining reference.
No, I wouldn't. If you showed me this, I would see Homer, and after that, I would see no Shining.
Hello. Yes, nothing really very shiny, but I guess I just really like the DALL-E stuff. I played around with it, and we've got those pictures of Jack Derrida riding quadrupeds and Maud falling to her death, and I think it's great. If I'm just debating whether I should spend any more money on buying some credits.
What is DALL-E?
DALL-E? I think DALL-E, the AI art generator, right?
Oh, yes.
So I think it's a mixture of DALL-E, the artist, and also Wall-E, the Disney robot.
Oh, yeah. That's
maybe it's not that. But anyway, here's a fairly poor part as Jack Torrance, but I thought it was a little different, so I thought, why not throw that in there?
You have to reshow.
Or you can't see it, that's fine.
But it's good.
Technically, it's not bad at all, but I don't think it adds much to the proceedings at this point.
No, it's a lot of things that aren't, no offense to artists, but it's a lot of things that aren't their own. From somebody who's talking about a different TV show on a podcast, the background is just from The Shining. The font is from a different horror film, and the
Nightmare on
bat
Elm
is
Street.
and the bat itself is just the most easy Google image bat, and then they've put on the Jack Torrance clothes and made the pupils, one of them bigger, one of them slightly bigger.
Die by die.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our last one, which is a T-shirt based on the Shinning.
Yeah, that's the best. That's a much better T-shirt than the Choking one. I think that's a great T-shirt.
Yes.
Nice to see Willie getting some Shinning merch, Shinning art.
In the actual poster and the T-shirt, where there is a face in the word "the," it isn't Scatman Carruthers in that picture, is it?
I don't think so. I think it's her. There's also the whole thing about wasps or bees or whatever, isn't there?
I think you're thinking of Nicolas Cage's Wicker Man remake.
Oh yeah, no, like the book, like the cover of one of like the Shining book. The cover is like a bee, isn't it? So is it not just a bee in that picture?
It's on the poster for The Shining.
Oh no, it's possibly Danny's face. It looks like an alien.
It does. It's not clear on quite what it's supposed to be,
but it's good. I prefer the Willy one. And yes, beautiful art.
Here's some rejected Shining, and eventually they settled on that, whatever that picture is. Palulu.
It could be Tony.
Could well be Tony, but anyway, this Shinning is a real nice one. Oh, it looks like it was made by T Public. Oh, it looks like the batteries are going on the old voice changer app. Bye, everyone.
It looks like there's visitors on the island anyway, talking about us, so we can go over.
Oh, hello, boys. I'm going to save you. I know you're watchdogs.
That's right.
Hi.
Are you Todd Hobgoblin? Anything else to say? Soiichi Wanwan before we switch them off for good?
What?
Badoo. The end.
What's your drink of choice? Negroni, Spagliato, with Prosecco in it. Oh, stunning! Oh, stunning! Stunning? What's your drink of choice? Negroni, Spagliato, with Prosecco in it. Oh, stunning!
What's your drink of choice? A Negroni. Oh, Spagliato. With Prosecco in it. Oh, stunning!
All woof and no woof make woof a woof woof.
Bye.